Captain, the cabin is secure. All passengers are aboard.
In case of an extreme emergency landing, you'll be instructed to get into the brace position, which is executed by placing your head between your knees with your hands over your head. We would also like to remind you that you should turn off all electronic devices. We thank you for paying attention during this brief presentation.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a wonderful chilly morning at San Diego International Airport. I'm joined here today by two of my friends who will be accompanying me on a flight to Inde Motorsports Ranch. As some of the Lucky Dog members have discovered, Inde Motorsports has their own private runway that is actually part of the racetrack itself. And so myself and one of the other members here, who are routinely photographers for Lucky Dog, decided to go on a flight from San Diego to Indy to see the sights and see the area, because neither of us are going to be there this weekend. So sit back, relax, and come along as we are flying Lucky Dog Airways, and we should have a short, about an hour-long flight, and we will not be serving in-flight refreshments, but we should hopefully be serving up some delicious topics and conversations. The first person with me is Dakota Snow. Dakota?
Hey, how's it going, Drew?
I guess the other person with us is Mr. Justin Parcher.
Hi, I'm the other person.
Other person.
So
Salutations all.
yeah. So Dakota is sitting over here, co-pilot. He's invisible, but Dakota is sitting next to me and will probably yell at me when I fail to fly this multi-million-dollar piece of hardware. And Justin is behind us somewhere in arguably a more expensive piece of multi-million-dollar hardware. So I think part of the journey is going to be if we get there in one piece. So come along for the ride, and we're gonna get going, get in the air.
Getting there in one piece certainly is the goal, but yeah, that is a bit up for debate. We'll see how that goes. Once we're in the air, getting off the ground and touching back down again. That's the hard part, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if the landing this time goes anywhere like the landing last time, we're in for a bit of a bumpy ride.
Fun for a bumpy ride, yeah.
I will be curious to actually know how much turbulence we hit, because the last couple times,
A lot of turbulence.
Well, so heading out, we're in San Diego, and most of our trip will take us out east. And we'll be flying over some of the eastern California mountains on our trip out. And, we will hit a set of mountains as we're climbing to our cruising altitude. And it will depend upon how bumpy it gets, because the weather's currently live, even though the time of day isn't. And so if there's turbulence in the area right now, in game, then there's going to be, or in real life, then we'll see the turbulence in game. So
Makes sense.
I'm going to go through.
Well, Drew goes through his pre-flight checks here and gets us off the ground. I'll kind of jump us into our first topic. So, as Drew had mentioned, neither I or him, due to various different reasons, are going to be able to make the trip down to Indy this weekend. We're both kind of sad because after looking at the track from Google Maps and in game here in Microsoft Flight Simulator, we're both kind of like, dang, we wish we could have been there this weekend, because it looks like it's a lot of fun and a lot of cool photographs to potentially get, but maybe next time. But what we want to kind of talk about today was, all the racers in Lucky Dog know obviously what a race weekend looks like from that perspective. And you've probably seen Drew and I wandering out through the paddocks and now on the sides of the track and stuff, shooting photos, but really, what does the weekend look like for us? So we kind of wanted to walk you through that and kind of give you an insight into the prep work that we do, what we do kind of day by day throughout the race weekend, and kind of some insights into that. We thought that might be interesting for all the racing drivers to kind of hear our perspective on it. So
yeah, well,
first things first. Go ahead, Drew.
No, sorry. It's just especially being photographers at a racetrack, we I think experience the weekend in a bit of a different way than a lot of the drivers and spectators themselves do, because we have to some extent be intimately involved with not only the flow of the track, the locations we can shoot from, but also how the race is going and where the drama is. And so for us, I think to some extent, we try to keep ourselves as abreast of the racing action itself as much of the normal Lucky Dog staff, the people who are in the tower, looking at lap times and officiating.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I'd say that a lot of drivers will do their prep work. They will drive the track in simulators, be it Forza, Assetto Corsa, iRacing. They'll try and take the opportunity to drive the track as much as they can ahead of time and really learn the intricacies of it, because obviously the better you know the track, when you show up, the less green you are and the faster you can start putting down good lap times. So it's very much the same for Drew and I. We want to know where on track is the best opportunity to make a pass, because then we know where we want to be for taking a good photo of a pass, or where do you really take a lot of curb to where you might be able to get a tire off the ground, as we in the Lucky Dog world call it, cheeseburgering. We really want to know the racetrack and how the race is going to go, as well as many of the drivers. So that's the first thing Drew and I will do. We will take every opportunity we can to research it. I have an old Xbox 360 and I have Forza 4, so I will spend some time, driving the track in there if it's available. If not, I will go to YouTube and I will start watching, YouTube videos of just open lapping days, and start really trying to, familiarize myself with the track. I'll look up, and there's a lot of photographers that I follow that I look up to. So I'll look and see have they shot there, and if they have, then I'll kind of look through their images and start, putting together a game plan. Something that you see in the professional ranks is that they will get a photographic brief from whatever client they're working with. And basically what's covered in that is, shots that the client would like to get throughout the weekend, as well as kind of, a shot list with with some level of, I'm blanking hard on the word here, priority to them. So what photos really are important for them, and that kind of thing. So what Drew and I do is we put together a document like that ahead of time, that we can both contribute to, and we start planning out our weekend. And that gets as intricate as Drew will be at turn 1 for race start, I will be at turn 6. Whatever the case may be, we will plan out exactly where we want to be, depending on what's going to be happening in the race. The other thing that we will do is we will start looking up charts that track the movement of the sun. So we as a photographer, you're always kind of chasing light, and you're trying to. Oh, there goes Justin flying past.
Well, I was gonna say, speaking of light, we're starting to get like a teeny tiny sunrise.
We're starting to chase the sunrise here.
I think it was over there, but maybe not.
Somewhere in that general direction. Justin has obviously sped off into the sunrise.
Yeah, I was about to say, Justin's gonna get to Indy about 45 minutes before we will.
Yeah, he's gonna be on the tarmac, cracking open a couple of cold ones before we even get there.
Throttle the bottle. No, I'll stick with you guys. I'll escort you across the test range.
Hey, there's the sun, Drew. You can just see it starting to come up there on the left side of the screen. But yeah, so we're always chasing the sunlight. We want to know, what direction do we need to be able to shoot in for sunrise. So, last year during the 24 hours of ORP, I planned out where exactly I was going to be for sunrise, what time sunrise was, and made sure to give myself enough time to hike out to where I wanted to be at by the time the sun rose. So there's a lot of prep that goes into the weekend. So whereas race teams are, making sure that they have tires, make sure that they're topped up on fluids, Drew and I are making sure that we have our game plan in order. We know exactly which corners we want to shoot from, what types of shots we're going to be looking to get. We'll connect with Kathy and Jason ahead of the race to make sure if there's anything special going on, we're aware of it. Yeah, so that's kind of the prep work side of it. And then, we clean all of our gear, and we pack up, and we fly out to the race, or drive out if it's local. So that's kind of step one of our race prep. Step two starts when we get to the track. So when we get to the track, if we have the ability to go night before, we want to go, we want to hang out. Obviously, we like hanging out with everybody, all of you guys, catching up with all the teams. I know that when we went to Sonoma a few weeks back, I really needed a trip like that. It was great to see everybody. I hadn't seen everybody since Thunder Hill, so it had been a couple of months. So it was just great to catch up. And I know Drew and I, we seem like we're always running around with the cameras on our necks and stuff, but we love getting the chance to just stop and chit chat with everybody. We're both very social, so we love getting to talk with everybody. And it's pro tip, a good way to potentially get more photos of your cars if you're nice to us.
Well, yeah, it's a big thing where if you see us, don't be afraid to pull us over and say hi to us. Dakota and I both strive to take photos that are more than just a static image. We want to take a photo that means something to someone, and so if it's on a race weekend and it doesn't matter if your team's battling for first or for 10th. If you're just having a great time and you pull us over and you're like, hey, look, we're battling Blue Bayou for 6th right now, and we've been going back and forth all day long, and it's just been great. Let us know. We'll go out there. We'll take pictures of both the cars together. We're going to give you a great memory of what made your weekend special. And unless you talk to us, unless you engage with us, we sometimes don't know that that's going on. It could be as much as we're doing a transmission change right now, and we're going to get it done in an hour and a half. We'll snap a few photos. We want you to remember the great time you had, and that begins with us being a part of the race, and teams not being afraid to engage with us and take advantage of us being there.
Yeah. One thing that we've been doing is we will download race capture. We'll follow the race along so that way we can start knowing when things are happening. At Sonoma again on Sunday, there was great racing towards the end. The Evolution of Speed team, and Justin, do you remember what the team name of the 111 car was? That E46
White M3. Yeah, it was Groot.
Groot, yeah, Groot. Yep. Or Groot 2. They had a couple of them running. But yeah, so it was Groot versus Evolution of Speed, and then there was a Mustang in there. I think it was like car 121, I think, or 211 or something like that. But they were all running super close with like 30 minutes to go. The Evolution of Speed and the 111, they were a second apart, lap after lap after lap, and it was really fun to watch because they're kind of like hitting close to the super dog time. Oh, gotta back off, can't go too fast, but they're still battling, trying to maintain that gap. And Drew and I were on the outside of the turn 7 kind of complex, and I got a really good shot of the Evo going for a pass on Groot. And it was just such a great bit of racing happening, and it was so cool to be able to follow that along and know that every time by, that was for the overall lead. It makes it really fun for us when we know that type of stuff. And yeah, it was a great time to see all the racing that was happening. So yeah, definitely feel free to grab us, keep us in the loop. And if you got something special going on with your team that weekend or something, feel free to drop us a line and let us know. We're more than happy to make sure that we can plan that into our game plan for the weekend.
So just as a quick update on the flight, there is a Southwest Airlines flight, Southwest 4471, out there somewhere in the desert. Yeah, I see the blinking light out there. And then
let's race him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what he's in, but it's probably bigger and faster than what I'm in.
Well, if it's Southwest Airlines, that would necessitate that it is a 737.
Do they exclusively have 737s? Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah,
that's good to know.
Standardize the fleet.
It's a smart way to do it.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm kind of reeling from a set of bad mistakes during takeoff. I forgot to set the autopilot before I took off, so I'm climbing out trying to.
Are you reprogramming the autopilot as you're trying to climb?
No, so the autopilot has two different. There's the flight computer which has my route in it, but you still have an autopilot that has both, GPS and dumb functionality, if you will. And for climbing out, you're using part of that dumb functionality, and I had forgot to set that while I was on the ground. So, aviation slap on the wrist for me for being a bad pilot.
And this is why Drew does not work for the FAA.
This is why I don't want to get my pilot's license. I would forget stuff.
Well, anyways, things that Drew is actually good at, taking photos. We'll not let him fly planes in real life, don't worry. Like Drew had mentioned, we really try to look for unique images. Anybody can kind of go out and take a photo of a car driving around the track. But we kind of think there's something a little different to really make it special. And something we're trying to do is tell the story of the event through the images we take. So, for us, it's as much about the people as it is the cars on track. We try to spend a lot of time in the pit lane, shooting photos of people as they're hanging out, preparing for a race, in a pit stop. Drew likes to take some hot sauce bottles and Photoshop them in for the fueling violations.
That was a barbecue sauce bottle.
Barbecue sauce, yeah. So we really have fun with that stuff, and it's great when we see the passion on people's faces and people really getting into it. Some of my favorite images that I've taken have not been of cars on track, but of the people in the car with eyes of steely determination, prepping themselves mentally for that session that they're going out into. People getting ready, kind of jumping, getting loose, ready for that fast as they can driver change. That type of stuff is super fun to me, and I know that's what makes it unique is that passion, that emotion that goes into it. So that's what Drew and I really love to capture, and that's what makes a really good image. That's why my favorite images are the ones where we're able to capture that passion.
I mean, it's also fun when you find like that photo and you're like, oh man, this is a really good photo, and then you zoom in and the driver's flipping you the big old bird.
Yeah, thanks,
Guilty, Your Honor.
all the photos of you that we take are completely unusable.
I don't know who it is, but I'm making sure that you are number one in my eyes.
Or when you get it a little bit sideways just for us.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Showing off for all your fans.
Somebody's gonna misconstrue me having some fun with you guys as being directed towards a...
Get black flag for some unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, let's hope not.
It was the blue E30. Is it car 031? Is one of the ones that races, I think, with English Racing. I think it's Hank Moore, I want to say is his name. At ORP, he said at one point he got bored, and so he just started buzzing the wall with like 30 minutes left in the race because he saw that we were there. And Drew and I were just eating it up. We loved it. That was so funny.
It was some of the best photos we got too that day.
Every single race since then that we have been at where that car has been there, he has started buzzing the wall anytime he sees you and I up against it. Like backstretch at Thunder Hill, he was buzzing it like middle of the day, and I was like, I love this. This is so good.
Well, weren't other people following him? Like there was
People
the
on an ORP, and there was like a train of cars that were all buzzing it with like 20 minutes left in the 24.
Well, at Thunder Hill, I want to say it was like he started doing it, and then I think there was the Datsun was behind him, and the Datsun started doing it as well, and I was like, oh, this is becoming a thing.
Oh, it was so entertaining.
But yeah, no, again, we're out there to have fun, and the more fun things we see on track, the more photos of that fun thing will get taken.
Definitely, yeah. That doesn't mean you have to obviously you don't have to power slide in front of us. It's obviously recommended because I am never in the right place in the right time for a good power slide. Justin, our fellow our F-15 pilot here, had a lovely big old power slide when he was taking a turn in the General Leaf at Sonoma, and Drew and I are both looking the opposite direction. So totally missed that one. It was a great power slide. Excellent save on your part there, Justin. Had some fast hands.
Yeah, well, that's an incredibly well-balanced car. It's if you do have the quick hands, you can certainly keep yourself out of trouble with it.
Mm-hmm. I think that rolls into something that we get hit a lot with, question-wise, is like, oh, did you catch this thing? And when it comes down to it, tracks are really big, and there's only two of us. And,
They are really big.
you know, oftentimes when we're out shooting at the track, we're oftentimes together when it happens, you know, safety in numbers, whatnot. If I see a car barreling towards Dakota, I will jump in front of it to stop it so that he stays
Aw,
safe.
thanks, buddy. That way we both die.
But you know, it's obviously we want to catch as much of the action as we can, but obviously we can't be everywhere at once. And so, again, going back to the whole, you know, going with the ebb and flow of the race, you know, we do our best to kind of go where the action is, but there's a lot of times when, you know, you're going to do something in the car and the only person that saw it was the corner worker.
Yeah, well, and a lot of that comes down to, you know, the prep work that you and I do. We try to put ourselves in the right spot for action. We try to, you know, anticipate where the action's going to happen.
Well, especially for races that have like a Friday practice, you know,
we can use the practice day to really explore the track and get a sense of, you know, is our game plan actually going to work, or do we need to adjust it? And that is, I love having the practice days. And isn't Lucky Dog considering going to more 3-day weekends? Isn't that a thing that they're considering?
I mean, it definitely seems like it's a trend right now. So, you know, I don't know if anyone has any real complaints about it, since it's, as far as I know, optional. And, you know, it's great for new teams, you know, get some seat time before you're in the thick of it.
It's wonderful for new teams, especially with green drivers. Like, that's fantastic for them to get some practice time in the car, on the track like that. Yeah, that's super valuable for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so kind of back to our swing of things. So we get to the track, we've done our walkthrough on practice day, we've made sure that our game plan is ready and set, and, you know, race start happens. So Drew and I are in position for race start. We're at the corners we wanted to go to, and we capture that. And what we've been trying to do over the last several races is kind of basically the routine is shoot, edit, post, and then go back out again. So we try to, you know, for everyone who's not able to make it to the race, we try to be kind of that live boots on the ground kind of media almost, to try to provide that race coverage, you know, because everybody, you know, they love tuning into all the live streams. I'm probably going to do some of that this weekend, so if anybody's live streaming, feel free to drop us a link. You know, I try to keep up with everything because it's interesting. You know, we're all passionate about racing, so we try to post a bunch as well throughout the weekend. Obviously, the first ones we added are the ones where you saw that in camera. We're like, okay, yeah, that's going to be a fire photo. Like, that's going to be just epic. Oh, mwah, nailed it. But yeah, so that's kind of our process, and we just start working through our game plan. We try to stay, you know, flexible, so that way if something happens, there's a red flag, there is a big change in the weather, you know, if something happens that we need to respond to, you know, we try to be flexible enough that we have the ability to jump, you know, respond to that.
Yeah.
When it comes down to our actual images, we really don't, I mean, at least I don't, and I know Drew doesn't do too much, but we don't do a whole lot of editing. To kind of give you a little bit of insight into that, one thing I really try to aim for is, you know, realism in the images. I try to not over saturate colors or, you know, crop out and hide items that were there. I try to really focus on how I'm framing my image and how the colors and everything are going to play together straight out of the camera. So that way it's minimal editing, which allows me to edit much quicker, because to give you an idea of the volume of photos that we're shooting, I generally shoot about 7,000 photos a day throughout the race weekend. So 3-day race weekend, I could end up with nearly 20,000 images taken pretty easily.
Yeah, and and it's something that, you know, a lot of people don't never think about, is the, you know, cameras with a shutter have a lifespan on the mechanics in them, and for most people, whether you go buy a standard consumer camera or even a professional body, you probably will never, in the lifespan of that camera with you, ever come close to the limit, the shutter limit that mechanically it's built for. But for us, when we go to a race weekend and we're putting, 7,000 photos through the camera, you're
Easy.
you're potentially taking, 5% of the life of the shutter on your camera off of it in one weekend. And that's kind of the cost of doing business. But there's a lot of stuff when it comes to just what goes into taking that many photos and editing them all that a lot of people don't realize. Even if you're thinking about trying motorsports photography, or or you're just on the sideline appreciating the work that we do.
Yeah, there's a lot of back end work that goes into it that doesn't get seen. So kind of race is over, right? We've shot, race finish, everybody's having a good time. We are at the the after party. You got some dinner, barbecue stuff that we've been having. It's been amazing. Great job, Kathy. That food's been delicious. You're trying the whiskey bar or whatever it was we had last time, bourbon bar or whatever it was we had at Sonoma.
Yeah.
And, you're getting into it. You're relaxing, right? This is when the real work starts for Drew and I. So we've been hiking around on our feet all day. I typically will hit 7 to 10 miles a day on my feet pretty easily.
I think we were doing what was it? I think we were close to about 15 on for Thunder Hill.
Oh, Thunder Hill, yeah. The tracks where there are hills, I am getting a serious workout in those weekends. But so once we're done at the track for the day, we then go back to the hotel or wherever it is we're staying, and we fire up the laptops and we start editing. So say race ends at 5 o'clock, we hang around for an hour, catch up with folks, eat some food and stuff. We're out there by say 6:30. We get back to the hotel or whatever, we pop open the laptops and we're editing from 7 o'clock to like midnight.
Yep.
And we will get through as many photos as we possibly can, upload everything to our folders, and go to sleep, wake up the next day, and do it all over again.
Yeah. In the early days when we were doing photos, we typically didn't do a ton of editing during the race just because we were still trying to get to grips with the whole idea of shooting a weekend. But at least for us, back last year, we're both employed, and so you run into this issue of we're going to go shoot a weekend and then we're going to come back and have to go back to our 9 to 5s, and it doesn't give us a ton of time to sit down and edit that many photos. And so having a workflow where we can edit our photos as we're shooting them is a great benefit to us, and it gets all the racers the photos much quicker because when the weekend's fresh in your mind, I think you connect more to the photos that we are taking.
Definitely, you definitely, especially when it's fresh.
Yeah.
And that's why Drew and I have really tried to refine our workflow over the last last year or so. We've invested into new software that helps with sorting faster, which has infinitely sped up workflow. So basically, Sonoma, I was able to shoot an average of 7,000 images a day, process all of them, and edit about 300 or so of those each every single day. And I was able to get through them and be done and be able to go to sleep with not having anything from that day left to edit. So we've really sped up our workflow, and we're at a point where we can kind of almost leave the weekend already done with everything. So that way when Monday comes, go back to the 9 to 5, not stressing about trying to get that stuff done as soon as I'm done with work for the day. So it's been really great trying to modify that workflow as we go, which we put in 17, 18-hour days sometimes over a race weekend to make sure that we are capturing everything that we possibly can and getting everything edited as quickly as possible as well. So there's a lot of back-end work that you don't see.
Yeah, exactly.
One of you recently was telling me something interesting about professional photographers for Getty.
Oh, yeah, that was me. So something I learned, you got memory cards in your cameras, right? And those can be varying sizes, like how hard drives are varying sizes and whatnot. And so the ones I use are 120 gigabyte. They have a really fast read and write speeds. That way I can download images really quickly so I can start looking at them faster, right? Something interesting I learned, Getty Images, which is a huge photo house. You may have heard the name before. They're big in, the news, sports, all over, right? they require their photographers to shoot on really small memory cards, so like 2 gigabyte memory cards, exceedingly small. And when I first heard this, I was kind of, dumbfounded. But I was like, that just seems crazy. Like, that's a lot more cards the photographer has to carry with them. There's more chance of losing those cards.
That would drive me insane.
Yeah, just you're always having to swap cards. You'd shoot like maybe 30, 40 photos, I feel like, and you'd have to swap cards. To give you an idea of how much data we produce over a weekend, I can produce nearly about half a terabyte. So 500 gigabytes in 2-3 days. Easy. Yep. So 2 gigabytes is you're dropping the bucket on that. And I was completely dumbfounded by this. It's like, why on earth would they limit it to 2 gigabytes? That just seems crazy. And then they kind of went into it, and they're talking about how if a card was to get corrupted or lost or something, instead of losing an entire day's work or an entire race session's worth of photos, you're only losing like a small batch, which when you do have high-paying clients, if you're working in professional motorsport or you're working in the news, you obviously have to capture those important moments, and you don't ever want to run the risk of losing the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that may make sense from that perspective, but yeah, I can't imagine how much of a pain in the butt that has to be, trying to constantly swap cards, remember which one's on which. I feel like it's just a lot more logistically
overwrite a card.
Yeah.
Worst nightmare is just plug it back in. Oh yeah, this one's blank. Start shooting, and you overwrote it. Oh man, I feel like those people probably have nightmares about that.
Well, at that point, like, I can't even imagine, because if you look at like a professional level camera body, they typically will have 2 card slots, and you can configure it to where it's writing the same photo to both memory cards to more or less defeat this problem. But you have to imagine you're coming into this as a professional photographer, with a camera that has the ability to write, dual memory, dual memory cards, and they're still requiring this this rule. And so just like, my camera has 2 memory cards in it, and it has less total memory than like a USB stick I could have got in like 2008.
Right? I feel like a floppy disk has more storage space on it. Like, come on.
Oh man, you just made me like remember the like old digital cameras that had like a floppy disk drive on them. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh man, those were the days.
That would probably really be a pain in the
Your
ass.
0.3 megapixel camera that was shooting.
Take one photo and have to swap out cards.
Exactly. Oh, jeez. Well, you have to imagine that, as time will go on, you're going to start seeing medium format cameras be more widely accepted in sports photography, and to some extent, large format cameras may eventually become a thing when technology, brings it down to a level that professionals and consumers can use alike. And so, at some point that's going to have to go away, because you're going to start having a 2 gig card that can take 4 photos as opposed to 100 photos at a time.
To give the non-camera people some context, medium format and large format cameras refer to the image sensor size. So physically larger sensors. What that relates to is basically megapixel size is really what you'll see a difference in. So whereas like the camera I shoot with is 20.4 megapixels, a medium format could be up to like 80 to 100 megapixels,
yeah.
And your large formats can be even higher than that.
Yeah, that's just nuts.
Yeah, and ridiculous. One kind of interesting thing, side note, a lot of professional retail photography for automotive. So like Toyota, for example, the guy who shoots their images, he shoots on medium format, which makes sense when you start looking at it from an advertising perspective, because the images need to be used in such a wide range of use cases.
Yeah, it could be billboard sized.
Yeah, it could be billboard sized. It could be thumbnail sized. By 300 pixels by 300 pixels. So there's so much variation in the use of them that they do shoot very high megapixel count with these medium format cameras. It also gives the editors more to work with, so they can really get the look and vibe that they're going for. So it's an interesting idea. kind of a cool random thing about weird cameras being used for motorsport. There is a guy who works in Formula One who is using like a 105-year-old camera to capture
Yes.
racing. I absolutely love that. I think that's the coolest thing ever. Like I really want to I want to get a what do you call the camera where you click it and it prints it out immediately? I'm blanking on that. Polaroid, yeah. I want to get a Polaroid because I think, boxing myself in with the constraints that would come with a Polaroid camera, and those are kind of all the rage right now. Like everybody seems to have a Polaroid, right? I think to constrain myself down and instead of using, my several $1,000 camera that I've spent, my life savings on.
Sorry, Justin's really close.
That is really close.
Justin's really close. I'm sorry. At that point, you basically made a drive-through. I could have handed your burger and fries out to you at that point. That is not a realistic event that could have happened in real life.
Justin is having way too much fun out there. All I see is him just going up and then flipping down and then going up again.
I would actually be kind of curious if the wake from your F-15 could. You're probably large enough. Your wake could have easily disrupted me enough to cause me to,
One
lose.
interesting thing I learned about the F-15 the other day, its fuselage diameter was set by the radar dome in the nose. So it's about 3 meters across in cross-section, and the footprint it takes up on the ground as far as wingspan and length is about the size of a tennis court. They're bigger than you think.
Oh yeah, well I mean
That
you sitting on the ground
larger
next
than
to
I would
me.
have thought.
Well, you sitting on the ground next to me. I mean, I'm always like surprised at how big you are compared to whatever it is I'm flying.
Tennis court. Wow.
Play tennis
Blown away by
on
that.
the multi-million-dollar plane.
There's an idea.
Government, hit us up. We've got great ideas.
But yeah, so that's kind of what a race weekend looks like from a photographer perspective. We try to have a lot of fun with it, and we love getting to hang out with everybody, and we're both passionate about cars. Drew will race with Justin's team from time to time, and I have a 1995 Nissan 240 SX that I take out to the track and do track days and stuff with. So we're both big in motorsports. We're passionate about racing, so yeah, we love getting to contribute to the series in our special way that we're able to bring. And if you guys ever have questions, feel free to just flag us down, hit us up on Facebook. We're always available to answer questions or just shoot the breeze about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, I know if Dakota was given the opportunity to race in Lucky Dog, I'm sure he'd take he'd take
really
someone up
want
on
to
that.
at some point. Like I probably would want to do it at either ORP or PIR, since those are the tracks I know best, since I've driven those multiple times. But yeah, I would love to do that at some point.
You know what got in the car.
I do know the guy of the car. I need to get all the safety gear. But speaking of your car, Justin, that thing's getting a little old these days. You've been racing that for how long?
Yeah, our first season in budget endurance road racing was 2010. So this
wow.
will be our 11th season now.
So what does a decade of racing do to a car like that?
Yeah, I mean, we traditionally only do 2 races a year. Certainly not like the 6 or 8 that some teams are known for. But even that, like the rear bumper bar has been ripped off 4 or 5, 6 times maybe.
All those third-gen Camaros.
And Integras.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Integra too.
Integras, don't forget them.
I think the first time it was actually a silver Nissan Sentra.
That sounds right for a Nissan.
But regardless, it has some fatigue cracks in places you wouldn't expect. So
yeah.
it's showing its age for sure.
Yeah. Does that ever come into play when it comes to like alignment? Like obviously, in racing it's a matter of when, not if you'll get hit.
Yeah.
Do you have like any, if right front, yeah, that's set at like -5 caster because it got bent, so -5 puts it back to neutral. Like, do you have anything weird like that you're having to deal with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, caster, exactly, nail on the head there. Caster left to right.
Just spitballing at caster.
Is definitely different on my car, left to right, with the same shims. Or, I mean, one thing I've heard some of the more experienced teams say is when you can't properly align the car anymore, that's time to take it out behind the shed.
Yeah, it's probably crab walking a little down the racetrack at that point.
Yeah, well, I've been guilty of that, but you know,
Dirt tracking it, yeah.
Track alignment, probably not the best idea.
Hey, you know what? If you're not string aligning the car, you're not doing it right, in my opinion. That's part of the
String. I
that's-
eyeballed it that time.
Well, something I was
your string.
well, something I was wondering about is, obviously your car has kind of been around since, I mean, I'm not going to say the early days, but earlier days of budget endurance racing. And it seems like as time has gone on and we've transitioned to racing in the Lucky Dog Racing Series, the number of contacts with things has gone down. So I'd be curious to know if you thought that, if someone were to build a car now, or if we were to build another car again now, do you think it would probably last longer because, that interval of, what would you call it, unscheduled contact is lower?
Unplanned rapid disassembly. Yes, but not for the reason you're talking about. I think, there's probably less contact than there used to be, and I'm all for that. I do think, like, one of the biggest ways I've noticed that our car has started showing its age is simply just that we are driving it so much harder and faster than we did in the early days. And, like, that puts load on places that we never used to see.
Yeah.
Example,
Hancock's, bro.
For example, Justin, I know the 444 car at ORP last year in the 24. It seemed like they were going through control arms at a rapidly fast rate. Is that just a nature of Fieros? Is that, like you had said, just more abuse than traditionally seen, obviously, on factory components?
That particular instance, those actually weren't factory components, and there was a bit of an issue with one particular point in that control arm being a little weaker. But perfect example, again, I mean, you're sending them straight down the plate here. My car at Portland last year broke an upper control arm mount. It's a solid steel tube that's welded to the control arm, the cross member, and we broke that somehow.
How did that happen?
Impacts, load, who knows?
Goodness.
But that's something I never, man. Yeah, seriously. That's something I never would have predicted that we would have been worrying about on this car.
Yeah, a structural component like that, you kind of were like, oh no, that's good, that can't have broken. And you're like, oh wait, no, that totally broke. Holy crap, okay. That's wild. So, you currently obviously drive a Fiero. You own a personal one that's like a street car as well. If you were to go for a new race car, what would you go for another Fiero? Would you want to change it up? Obviously you got the wagon. I think it'd be cool to see a wagon racing out on the track. What would be your race car choice? You got to build a new one.
Realistically, we would probably chassis swap to another Fiero, just because I'm cheap and doing this as affordably as possible is what lets me stick around.
Racing is not a cheap sport, to say the least.
No, like they say, start with a small fortune and go racing, or start with a large fortune and go racing. That's how you make a small one.
Exactly.
Butchered that in the big guy.
It's okay. Just like we butchered our fortunes going racing.
Yeah, seriously.
Not to
ultimately, I mean, if money was no object, I would probably end up having some sort of a station wagon. I mean, there was at one point we were spitballing one night after a race, and I threw out the idea of mid-mounting an LS in like a Roadmaster wagon.
Oh, that would be epic.
Have like marine headers coming out the tailgate.
I mean, at that point, I would, if it were me, I would say, well, why would I go racing with this? I just want this to be my street car.
hey, there's nothing saying that your race car can't also be street legal.
There's true. There's nothing saying that I can't go build two of them.
You guys have been driving your Fiero to the track the last decade as well. I feel like that's worth noting here. You have always driven the race car to the track as well. Whereas
Or the people that show up with license plates on it, driving in front or behind the U-Haul. We do it literally as cheap as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we see people, rolling in from, the variety of, rented U-Haul trailer to, toter home with a stacker, and you're like, no, I'm gonna drive my race car to the track.
Yeah, I finally trailered it myself for the first time last year to ORP.
Wow.
Or
Took
borrowed
11 years to actually tow it somewhere.
Yeah, it should feel spoiled. It got towed to 2 different race tracks last year, so.
That's awesome. So funnily enough, speaking of mid-mounted engines, I'm trying to find it in my files here on my computer right now, but there is a Ford F100 that I saw at Pacific Raceways last year that is apparently dropped over a Crown Victoria chassis, I guess.
It is. That's a fairly common, well, I shouldn't say common, it's a known swap.
Yeah. But apparently they are in the process of mid-mounting it behind the cab right now.
Indeed, I have seen the photos.
I have to say, I am very much looking forward to seeing that on track. That could be really cool, because it was really cool to see it out there when we were up Pacific, because you don't see too many trucks racing. I think there was an S10 at Charlotte last year. I can't think of any other.
It's actually an Isuzu Ombre.
Oh, good lord.
Bright orange, yeah. Heroes Motors, or not Heroes. Apologies, Garage Heroes in training.
Garage Heroes. But yeah, I can't think of too many race trucks that you see, and I think it's interesting. I feel like you'd see more people building race trucks, whether it's S10 or old Mazdas or something, because you got the idea
Mini
of
trucks, man.
yeah. I mean, I owned a mini truck for a long time. Like, mine was lowered. It was fun to drive. Had all 86 horsepower, so obviously gonna need to do some engine swapping there. But it was a fun car to drive, and I feel like we don't see many trucks out there, and I feel like it'd be really cool to see more of them out there. It's the 722 truck is the F100.
Indeed. It's a nice forest green color.
Yeah, it looks great out there, honestly. It was really fun to watch. So yeah, very looking forward to seeing them back.
I don't want to throw them under the bus too bad, but they were definitely one of the highlights for me for Pacific last year. Super rainy. I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Saturday, right?
If I know what you're talking about, then yeah, it was Saturday.
When it was just pouring down rain.
It was raining, thunder and lightning. It was true Pacific Northwest weather on Saturday. But I think I know the incident you're talking about.
Yeah, well, it's being a truck, also. It doesn't have a lot of weight in the back.
No.
And Pacific, the last couple of turns coming up the hill, it's a big carousel uphill, slightly banked. And a number of times they were doing some really sweet fat drifts through there.
Yeah, there was some great action.
So mad props to that. But at one point I looked over and they were all but maybe 2 feet away from kissing the exterior fence of the property. Like
got a little bit too Formula D there.
400, 500 feet off the racing surface.
Well, it was more of a boat racing contest than it was an automotive racing contest that day. That was exceedingly wet.
That was a great day to have front-wheel drive.
Well, wasn't it? It was the Nissan Maxima from
Pyrotech.
Yeah, they're the ones I think who won overall that day, didn't they?
I don't recall the exact finishing position, but it was a really good day for them. It might have been overall.
It was a great day for them. Yeah, that was fun to watch, honestly, with how bad the weather was. That was really fun to watch.
Speaking of weather, just a quick flight update. We crossed over Tucson a couple minutes ago, and we are beginning our descent to the valley floor. We're heading over some sort of wilderness preserve right now that is mountainy, so you can see it's a little bit turbulent. But yeah, it looks like we're going to be popping down below the clouds. I didn't expect it to be overcast, but I guess it's going to be so. This will make for a fun descent into Indy.
So Drew, you seem to have done a lot more research on the track than Justin and I have here. So, kind of tell us about the track a little bit from what you've seen on your test flights here.
I mean, I don't know offhand how long the track's been open, but just from like looking at the satellite and flying into it a couple times, it definitely seems like Lucky Dog Racers are going to have a great time this weekend. The one thing that, like I said at the beginning of the flight, is that it stood out to us was that they have their own private airstrip. And if you go to the Indy website, they talk about fly and drive kind of packages and usage of that airport. But it definitely, if you're wanting to run a private professional motorsports track, having an airstrip attached to it's a pretty neat feature.
Not a bad idea. Yeah, not a bad idea.
That is incredibly relevant. All of the turns at Indy are named after different military aircraft.
Yeah, and they have
most
a bunch
of them
of
fighters, some reconnaissance stuff.
And they have a bunch of jets on site as well, don't they?
Yep,
that's what I hear.
Yeah, that's what I've seen some of the Google Map photos. Which that's Drew and I are really sad we can't go, because obviously Drew loves Microsoft Flight Sim. He loves flying. And I've taken some photos of jets and stuff, and it's really fun. And it's whereas cars are one level of speed, jets are just a whole other level of speed capture. And so it's really fun to they're like cars in terms of how fun they are to shoot. So even though these ones have been stationary and parked on the ground, it still would have been cool to interact with them, maybe get some photos, find ways to kind of work those into the images throughout the weekend. So definitely sad we won't have that opportunity. But if you're there and you have a camera and you feel like being a homie and grabbing us some cool photos so we can kind of see stuff, that'd be really cool. But so Drew, this runway they have, is it like off to the side? Is it how's it integrated with the track? Like, is it like a distance away? Or
so as we'll see, the track here is it's actually, I don't know exactly what their terminology for it will be, but I'm just gonna say it looks like it's essentially the back straight of the racetrack. So
it is. It's between turn 2 Saber Dog and turn 3 Blackbird.
And
so
it is part of the track itself.
Yeah, and
it's actually labeled runway on this map I'm looking at.
I love it. I love it.
If you awesome. If you like a normal runway, it will have markers down telling you what runway it is. And so if you look at what are essentially the runoff areas for the turns leading into and out of that straightaway, you'll see the runway markings for that airstrip. And we have just flown into the clouds.
We did. That's a lovely descent into the clouds here.
I wonder how aviation rubber compound and hand Kagaris 4 compound are going to interact.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting to know if there's a worse grip, more grip, what that looks like. Ooh, that's pretty.
Yeah. Well, I missed my descent profile by a little bit, so we're gonna be flying.
We wouldn't expect perfection.
So we're going over Lake Wilcox right now, and we'll probably be making our turn into the airport here a little bit later in the valley once I get down. I'm kind of interested to see how high the cloud cover is, because obviously we are shrouded in clouds right now over the lake.
What is our altitude?
We're coming down through 11,000 feet right now. The runway's at about 4,500 feet elevation.
Oh wow! So the track's actually pretty high in elevation, at least compared to where we are in the Pacific Northwest and kind of what we're used to up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey Justin, since you're in a more mobile airplane, would you mind popping down and seeing how low the cloud cover is?
Gladly.
The advantage of a fighter escort. There you go.
Actually, you're probably going to be coming out of it any moment.
Okay. Yeah, because I had an altitude I wanted to come in at, and
I'm showing about 9,400 feet potentially.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going.
So we obviously, Drew and Justin like to, played Microsoft Flight Simulator, but along with that, I know Justin is heavily involved with the Lucky Dog Sim Racing League, and I myself picked up a Logitech G27, and I just need to drive up and say hi to Justin one of these days and pick up a pedal housing, and I will be able to join it as well, and start mixing it up on track with all the Lucky Dog folks who are racing in the Sim League. So, Justin, I know you're obviously far more heavily involved than I have been. So, kind of give us a rundown. What's the Sim League looking like this year? You won it or something last year, right?
You're champion.
Humble brag. I
Okay,
want to say it was actually 2019.
2019. Okay. Well, 2020 was a write-off, so we don't talk about that one.
Yeah, 2019, I was the GT Series champion. And 2020 was actually a really great year for the Lucky Dog Sim League.
Okay.
COVID meant that people were at home and had less to do than normal, and went from a fairly successful league to literally having to split each week's action into different heats because we had so many people. We couldn't fit everybody into one session, so it definitely was a boom.
That's awesome.
Silver lining to a global pandemic, I suppose, but that did establish us with some contacts to broadcast races, and
Nice.
I can't say whether or not that's going to be a thing in the future. Just I'm not involved in that discussion,
Yeah.
but it's there if we want it. And Pit Stop TV was our broadcast partner.
Very cool. Very cool. That's yeah. It sounds like it's really was able to take off kind of this last year, which like you said, silver lining of everyone being stuck at home and staying inside for the betterment of everybody's health. So that's awesome. That's fantastic. It makes me more excited myself to get my my simulator up and running so I can actually start joining in and racing with everybody. That'll be a lot of fun once we actually get there. So, what kind of cars are you guys running? Are you guys running just Miatas? Are you running Formula One cars? You said GT, so is that like GT3s? GTLM? What kind of cars are we talking about?
Over the years, we've done a whole range of stuff. The league started off as an MX5 series, did a couple of seasons of that. The GT series I was talking about at the time, I think, was GTE cars. We started this latest season as GTE and I want to say GT4, and transitioned more to a GT3 and TCR, I think is where we ended up at.
Okay. What has been your favorite car to drive out of the ones you guys have raced in?
Well, I'm actually going to say, I think it was 2019 as well. We did a mashup series where each week was a different car and track combination. So it could be anything from Indy cars at Laguna Seca to stock cars at Charlotte, or GT cars at Spa. It was just a little bit of everything, it seemed. So I think that was fun because you're challenging yourself both to potentially learn a new track, but then also to
new car as well.
Do it as best you can in a potentially unfamiliar car.
I feel like that variety is what really separates, because maybe you're the one person they always practice in the IndyCar at Laguna, or they always run the MX5 at Indianapolis or something, right? So I feel like that's super cool to have that variety, because it really starts to show who is able to quickly adapt to both track conditions and and the car, and it really starts to separate the drivers out in terms of talent, honestly. So it's really cool. I hope that they continue to do that, because I would love to jump in and start joining in with that. That could be a ton of fun. So you'd mentioned Spa and you'd mentioned Laguna. So obviously Laguna is a track that Lucky Dog runs. Spa, maybe if we get real lucky one day, we'll have a nice trip to Belgium or something. That would be super cool.
I
Kathy,
tried talking the folks
on the
at
dream
the
list.
Nürburgring into getting us a date, but no go.
So Kathy, start reaching out to your contacts in Belgium. We would love that. I think I can speak for the entire series when I say that. So what kind of tracks are you guys running on? Are you running on the local ones that Lucky Dog actually drives in real life? Are you guys just having fun with it and you're running Spa and Nürburgring, and what other kind of tracks are you guys running?
I mean, once again, nail on the head there, but pretty much the the whole gamut, with a focus on tracks that we do get to race on in the series in real life. So we tend to do Sonoma, Laguna, Charlotte, a number of those tracks that we could realistically, get to go and race at. But in addition, the beauty of being on a sim is that you have that flexibility to do sort of fantasy type things, and we definitely do race on bigger tracks worldwide that I'll go out on a limb and say we probably won't get to race Lucky Dog at.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Unless we, if anybody listening, is a billionaire, has some cash to burn, and really just feels like putting together a great trip for everybody. My vote would obviously be Spa or the Nürburgring. I would love one of those. Let's just do our own Lucky Dog 24 hours of Spa. I would gladly go and cover that. That would be amazing. So out of all the tracks that we have in the U.S. that might realistically be feasible, what ones do you guys run that we don't currently actually have in the Lucky Dog lineup?
We typically have Daytona once a season or so, and other budget endurance series have been able to make a go of it, and I would be all for it. But that's one that we don't have yet.
I've seen, I think it's Lemons has ran at Road Atlanta. Is that who I've seen run there?
Yeah, I think.
Because I want to say the race
the
that
series
they did,
formerly known as Chump Car.
Yeah, I want to say the race they did in, when was it? It was a few months ago. It was snowing
for the second year in a row.
Yeah, was it the second year in a row? Okay, wow. Yeah, I just saw that it was snowing because there's a photographer friend of mine who was racing there, and I was like, whoa, it is snowing at
late winter
Atlanta.
day.
That's crazy. Yeah.
All right, Drew, I believe you. Grease it.
Yeah, here we go, Drew.
I got it. It's yelling at me. It's yelling at me because I'm trying to hit the. Why are you yelling at me for flaps?
Did you put the wheel down?
No, it's yelling at me because I don't have the full flap package down. And there's touchdown.
Oh, bounce. Oh, bounce.
Oh shit! Well, that was there's kind of a crosswind here, so I let it get the best of me.
Overhead storage bins during landing.
All right, well we landed.
Yeah, you did have it 2 off, but you walked away, so that's a good landing.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the footage and see if there was a wing strike on that bank over right as I put down.
Drew, it looks like we are being waved in for a black flag here. We might be getting ourselves a general ass hattery cone.
Eric's going to want to talk to me for that one.
I think you're getting talking to here, bud.
I'm gonna get black flagged for passing in a yellow. Or running your car during a red flag because they red flagged the race so that we could land.
Yeah, so when you run at Indy, watch for red flags and Drew trying to land a plane. If you do see a plane coming in and it is Drew behind the controls, run for your life. Yeah. Because obviously Drew cannot land a plane, in simulated or otherwise.
So I just want to point out that the map data for Indy in here is kind of old. So you can see the track. It's actually these dark spots. But
I was gonna say that looks like dirt, Drew.
Yeah, but this map data is probably old to where Indy was being laid out at the time when this was taken. Because if you look over here, all the buildings are here for the actual track itself. But I've been meaning to get this updated, but so far it's
from above it actually looks really really decent. I'm turning some circles up above it right now, but
nice.
Yeah. So, but I would assume if we do this again, flying into other tracks, are probably going to be more up to date, especially if the track has been around for longer than Indy has probably been in business. So,
like the second day that Microsoft Flight Simulator was out, I landed a Cessna 172 on the front stretch at Pacific because it was there.
There you go. What do race car people do as soon as they get in a plane? Go land on all the racetracks.
That was probably my first week, was just going and spotting all the racetracks I could think of.
Well, I think before I went to, what was it? Was it I think it was Thunder Hill for the first time. No, I forget which racetrack it was, but there were a couple racetracks we flew to for photography that we that I flew over in. Oh no, it was totally Laguna Seca. Flew over in a plane and did some spotting and scouting of kind of the area that's around it. It was a great way to see the views
and groundwork that we do.
Yeah,
Drew flies there in an airplane and lands, and I drive it in Forza Motorsport. So we do our own reconnaissance in our own way.
Multifaceted sim photography reconnaissance team.
So Drew, I hear we have a custom livery on the outside of our plane here.
Yeah, I will probably be putting a lot of B-roll in the precursor to the flight, so people should no doubt have seen enough of it. Before they.
Because you're flipping some switches here, and I feel like people need to be able to see this livery. So if they've already seen it, great.
I snapped a couple of photos mid-flight, so maybe those will end up in.
Perfect. Yeah. So hope you guys love the livery.
I'm gonna do like the finger guns and be like Justin's photos here.
That was down to Drew's handiwork. I think Justin had some creative input on there as well. I was not involved in that process whatsoever.
Well, I think at least for me, I like working with mediums that connect to people, or drive a connection to people. Photography is a really big one of them, and whether or not we do more of these or whatnot is up for debate, and just to see what the reaction is to it. But it was something that had been on my mind, and something that thankfully we were able to try, and hopefully this will be out by the race this weekend, and
you can listen to this while you're on the road traveling down. If you haven't already, I'm sure most of you have already left. Been following the updates as some of you take the scenic route and get the cars all covered in snow and climb sand dunes and drive through the middle of nowhere in Utah. So that has been very fun to follow on the Facebook groups. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the flight today, and the discussion we had about race weekend perspective from a photographer's point of view, and our chit chat about racing a 10-year-old car. So
yeah.
I appreciate you guys tuning in, and perhaps we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and let us know in the comments what you think. No criticism is bad criticism at this point.
There's some
Stay lucky,
bad criticism.
Yeah, Justin did it right. He had the right outro. We were too much shills.
Pandering.
Have a good one.
Bye.